My mic was muted. The mic was muted again. What's going on, everybody? We are going to get the show started here in just a second. I just have a couple more buttons to push. You might have heard a rooster crow just then. That's totally normal. Nobody panic. I forgot to set up this piece of software before pressing the button. Check, check. Almost done. Check the fastest. There we go. Okay. Press record. Here we go. All right. Up. Rooster's popping off today. Okay, what's going on, everybody? I'm here. Who we got going? Got Caretaker Dan. We got Tinfoil Hat Man's here. Jason's here. Boom shakalaka. Okay, the music's fading out. We're doing it. We're just giving people a second to get into the room to say hi. This is Canary Clubhouse. We're going to have a good time. Just an opportunity to get together, fellowship, see what the Lord's doing on a Thursday. Lots of craziness. All the craziness that we expected. I don't know, man. It's all happening again this year. Got some good things. We got some bad things. We got good things designed to look like bad things. We got bad things designed to look like good things. But we called it here on this show. They're going to keep the narrative cranked up to maximum. We'll talk about that. But we have a special superpower here as children of God, and that is an impenetrable force field that protects us from the wiles of the enemy, the fairy darts, etc. Okie dokie. Scotty says, listening from work. Thank you, sir. Blessings. Okay, we're going to get the show started here in just a second, so don't go anywhere. We will officially start the show. Just a heads up. Should get on the Canary Cry text message alert system. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. You'll get a notification from me before we go live throughout the week. This is not the number to call into the show. We've had some people a little confused. This is not a phone number that you can call to get on the show. This is for the text message alert system, which you should be on. But it is a call-in show, and you will see the call-in link down there in the description of the video. It's the same link every week, so you should just save it, hold on to it. If you want to call in, should start lining up now if you want to call in. Click on that link or copy and paste it into a browser. It'll ask you a couple questions. Then it'll put you into the back room where you can watch the show, listen to the show, hang out back there, chat with other people in the room. Then when it's time, I'll bring you up. Okie dokie. Here we go. You know how this works. I'm going to go ahead and put this image back up on the screen. I'm going to play this jingle, and we're going to get the show started.
Called it. We got a caller. We got a caller on the line here.
What's going on, everybody? It's me, your best buddy Basil, and you're tuning in to Canary Cry Clubhouse. Don't freak out. Don't be scared. This is not a news show, okay? I know there's headlines out there. I know people are paying attention. Stop paying attention. Okay, well, I mean, pay attention if you want to pay attention. But the theme for this year is keeping a level head. I don't know if you can hear that rooster in the background, but he is not keeping a level head. The propaganda rooster is at an all-time high today. I think he has a brain neural computer brain interface that connects him directly to the sewage pipe of headlines and news that is the internet. And he just kind of pops off sometimes when things, when the messaging gets too rowdy. And he doesn't think that we're as concerned as we should be. That's the whole thing, you know. It is weird living with a rooster in the house, and he's been in here for about 6 months. And the question everybody asks and the answer I give before they even ask is yes, he does crow in the morning. Sometimes he crows in the middle of the night. It doesn't seem to be on a schedule. It's just kind of whenever he wants to. 1:30 in the morning is kind of a common crowing time. About 5 in the morning, another common crowing time. About noon in the afternoon is a common crowing time. Basically, whenever I'm live streaming is a kind of high frequency rooster crowing time, which is why I'm convinced he is an agent of some clandestine force here to probably deprive me of sleep is a big part of it. There's some sort of very powerful sort of mind control, propaganda, social engineering effect that this rooster is having. Not only does he deprive me of good, long lasting sleep, but he also interrupts my very important work of yelling on the internet. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I've told the story before. Once the weather gets warm, he's going to be integrated with the rest of the flock, but that's neither here nor there. This is a call-in show. Did I say that already? It's a call-in show. I think I said that already. So click on the link or copy and paste it. It's right there in the description. Right there in the description. If somebody in chat can't find it, somebody copy and paste it into the chat for them, please, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're checking in. We're making sure the family is all good this week, and we're going to see what the Holy Spirit has to say to us. I am aware about the topic of war in Iran. I am aware of Prince Andrew getting arrested. Of course, it's a big day for news. It's a Thursday. It's a day that ends in Y. So it's 2026. If the day ends in Y, it's going to be an exciting and cage rattling news headline day. But I will say, all I think I'll really say, I don't know, I'm actually not in control of what I say here. But what I'll say for now is that we told you so. We told you. We told you. The narrative is going to get scarier and scarier. The stakes are going to get higher and higher. You didn't think the stakes could get any higher, but they just keep getting higher. And that's on purpose, right? But one thing that we feel a strong conviction here on the show and here in my head and my heart is that the worst possible scenario, I don't think we'll get the worst possible outcomes. I think we will repeatedly get the least worst possible outcomes. This happens in life, rather. This happens in life often for me. Stakes are high. Very rarely does the worst possible outcome, no matter how convinced I am in my own head, my own heart, that the worst possible outcome is the most likely one. Thankfully, the worst possible outcome is rarely the one that comes to fruition. And we don't want to miss the point. The point of this is not, my brain's so dumb, I shouldn't just worry about stuff. It's a little bit of an egoic thing, a little bit prideful, a little bit focused on the self there. Oh, I was so silly for thinking the worst possible outcome. You weren't silly. All the data you were given was pointing towards the worst possible outcome, just like we are now bombarded with every day on the news. The worst possible outcome feels like, given the information that we are given, the most reliable outcome being the worst one. But we have been shown and will continue to be shown that the least worst possible outcome may very well be the outcome of all these situations. And why do I hammer this home? Because we got to remember that when the least worst possible outcome does come true, this is not a time to berate ourselves or change our attitude towards our own brain, although that's always a good thing to do. But it's the opportunity to give glory to God, to God. Give glory to God. That's God showing off, okay? You're not wrong to think that horrible things can happen, but when the least worst thing happens, the right response is to be like, "Oh yeah, God's showing off here. It's pretty incredible." Now, does that mean if the worst possible thing does happen, that we also give glory to God? Yes, correct. That is also the thing that happens if the worst possible outcome happens. You're getting it. Look, it took me like 30 something years of following God to understand that the answer in both of those situations is yes. You give the glory to God because we have no idea what's going on. That's all I'll say for now. I do want to give a shout out to everybody here live. Thanks for being here. I think technically this is a little bit of an early episode, although my mind is erased after every one of these um, episodes. Let's see here. Oh, somebody is popping off on the text message alert system. That'll take me a second to go through. But it is a call-in show, so we're going to do some call-ins. Let's just get right to it. Here's the thing. I got some stuff going on today, I thought about not doing the show because I kind of need to run into town. I kind of got to get some animal feed. I kind of got to run some errands. But I can do that later. It's okay. It's still early in the day. And so I'm enthusiastic and expectant, as always, to see what God's doing on today's show. Remember, anybody can call in for any reason. You don't need to have some sort of mind-blowing revelation. You don't need to have some sort of entertaining anecdote. You certainly don't need to have a very complicated conspiracy theory that you would like to walk me through. You certainly don't have to impress me or anybody else. You can just call and say hi. It's not our job to do interesting stuff. That's God's job. And isn't that a relief? All you got to do, click that link down in the description. Follow the instructions. Anybody can do it, any device. Okay. Well, we're going to jump right into it. We'll see what kind of timing God has for today's show. Who do we got? Oh, we got a caller right here. His name is Rod. You know him. You love him. He's from the Millennial Mustard Seed podcast. Let's bring him on stage. What's up, buddy? How are you, Rod?
Best buddy Baz. What is happening, bro?
Good to talk to you. Good to see you. Looking cool on the video, man. What's up with you today?
Man, I was just out running in town doing my errands and wanted to hop on, so caught me
Yes,
by surprise. I guess I'm the first person in. You know, you
I
were
know.
saying the whole no, man, there's so much going on in the world, right? And
Mhm.
God is really looking for people that are willing to cast their anxieties on him.
Yeah.
Anxiety is a big deal for a lot of people. And so what's crazy is as you were saying that the intro there, I pull up First Peter, and can I read this to everybody?
Please
I'll
do.
read a couple lines. This is First Peter 5, starting in verse 1. It says, "To the elders and the flock, to the elders among you, I appeal as a fellow elder and a witness of Christ's sufferings, who also will share in the glory to be revealed. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care. Watch over them, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not
Mm,
pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when Christ, the chief shepherd, appears, you will receive a crown of glory that will never fade away. In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to the elder. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another. Mm. Because God opposes the proud, but he shows favor to the humble. So therefore, humble yourselves under God's mighty hand that he may lift you up in due time, casting all of your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And so, as I kind of was jumping into that, today, and then what you said just re-triggered it, pulled it back up. I'm looking at anxiety in the Greek, Baz, and hopefully I'm going to pronounce this right, but it's mer meremna. The term meremna denotes a mental state characterized by anxiety, worry, often pulling the heart in different directions. It describes both negative anxieties that hinder faith and a positive concern that reflects genuine care for others. In biblical context, New Testament, mer merimna, hopefully I'm saying that right once again, is often
That looks right.
associated with
I'm looking at it here.
yeah,
Merimna is the pronunciation.
merimna. Yeah,
Merimna.
merimna.
There
Praise
we go.
God. Thank you for that help. Merimna. Um, it it can be trusting God, emphasizing the need for believers to rely on divine provisions and care. It appears in various passages illustrating how anxiety can distract from spiritual focus and trust in God.
Mm.
And so in Philippians 4:6, Paul encourages the believers not to be anxious, merimna, about anything, but to present their requests to God through prayer. And he highlights this importance of faith over worry. And so we do live in I guess my speak piece, man, is there's anxieties out there and none of us are exempt. It'll knock on your door, listener, and it knocks on my door. And so we have these options, this choices, real time to say, you know what? He cares for me. I'm going to lay down my anxieties. I don't want to be pulled in different directions. I want to focus and have time. I want to have that relationship with God. And so I feel like I needed to hear that said out loud, and somebody else needs to hear that just because it's the living word. It's encouragement. And as the world goes crazy and as things are revealed and the veils being torn and ripped back and we're seeing the true state of so many things, for many of us who are spirit filled are seeing it increase and grow and grow. God is still standing on his word when he says, don't let none of it worry you. You're not thrown to the wayside. You're not forgotten. Cast all those anxieties on him. And then he talks about these divine provisions, God divinely coming through on your behalf. And there's nothing more beautiful, in my opinion, listeners out there, than a secret prayer, shutting your door and praying in secret. Whether you're in your car or you're in your house or out for a walk, man, there's something beautiful about that. And that's pretty much all I had to say, buddy.
I love it, man. No, it's a strong word for today. And yeah, the Marimna, that's a good one to remember, but
Marina.
that verse is so applicable, or that set of verses you read is so applicable in so many different situations. But
Yes.
yeah, and remembering that it's not just, it's easy for us to be like, oh yeah, the elites and the media, they want to keep us anxious. We all
Yep.
know that the elites and the lizard people and
Yes.
the media and the politicians, and they're
Yeah.
all kind of working together, if not in concert, at least incentivized by the same things to keep us anxious, because our anxious reactions to things, plays into anxiety. We all know that. But
Exactly.
it's also good to remember that the devil wants us anxious. To be in the state of anxiety is being right where the devil wants And for me, it's funny because I almost feel like I practice a sort of, what's the word? What's the word when you're like scared of something? Like if I'm scared of tigers, so then I go like sleep in a tiger cage to like
Yeah.
I forget. It's got a name. I forget what it is. Somebody in the chat help me with the name. Uh, Anyways, that kind of thing.
Phobia.
Yeah, it's
I
something
got it.
therapy, exposure therapy. That's what
Oh,
it is.
exposure therapy. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like, thankfully God has me in a place where it's like I'm daily practicing exposure therapy. Just like, we have over the years, many, many listeners. God bless them. We love them. Many people in the community that we just consider our brothers and sisters. And I'm always inviting people to take a break from Canary Cry News Talk if they need, because it can just kind of like really catch up to you. It can really start affecting you, these types of things. And for me, I'm like still kind of forced into the headlines every day. I'm forced into,
Hmm.
not just reading them, but then like analyzing, digging in. It's like this exposure therapy kind of thing. So I'm actually
Mhm.
kind of grateful for that, because through that sort of exposure therapy, I have built up some sort of immune response to
Mhm.
the, I don't know, the anxiety that those are sort of designed around. Um, and the one thing that rings for me
Mm.
with when it comes to anxiety is it feels so self-centered. It
Mhm.
feels a little prideful. And gosh, I totally look, I'm not saying I don't feel anxiety, folks. I feel it all the time. It just happens to be about like maybe less visible and obvious things. But there is a certain aspect of anxiety that's very sort of like self-centered. And you think, what is the enemy constantly trying to get us to do? What has the enemy done since the garden? His number one best trick to separate us from God or the will of God or seeking God is to make us focus on ourself, what we can accomplish, how we can become gods. Questioning the word of God. I mean, right there, like you just read, the word of God says, don't be anxious, cast your anxieties upon God. The enemy comes in and says, well, did he really say that? I mean, look, you got a lot of good reasons to be anxious. Look at all these headlines. Look at your bank account. Look at your relationships. You got all sorts of stuff to be
Exactly.
anxious about. And if you should worry about those things, because how are you going to solve your problems if you don't worry about them? That's kind of like part of the modern psychological, psychobabble kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which is like, no, anxiety is good. It's just a signal. Anxiety is just telling you what you care about. So don't, whatever. And look, there might be some practical use to that thing. But when it comes down to it, casting your anxieties on God is an incredibly humble thing to do, or it's a humiliating thing to do. There's humility in that, because it's the ultimate expression of like, I can't do anything, God. You can do everything. I can't do anything so much that I shouldn't even think about how I can't do anything. I shouldn't even be thinking about it, because it's just it compels me to want to do things by my own power. And
Exactly.
look, this is all easier said than done, and very fun to theorize in our quiet times or in our podcast times where we get to talk about weird stuff. But it is a battle as ancient as humanity itself. This draw, and to a degree, there's something about anxiety that, like, in a weird way, kind of feels good. For me, I've been there and I'm there often, like, especially with stuff with the news. Like, for me, I'll justify, like, well, I have to know about this. I have to know about the worst possible stuff because I got to talk about it. It's my job to blah, 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 blah. But there's like something that feels good about the anxiety, which I think makes it more difficult for us to throw it away. We hold on to it. Think of all the other things in our lives that we know shouldn't be there, that we know God doesn't want us to be holding on to, and we're just holding on to it, even though we know it's bad. This goes all the way from addiction to, ungodly relationships to all the way to anxiety. We have this clenching, uh, sort of instinct to hold on to these things, and we often don't even know why. We know they're bad for us. And so, this is something everybody's going to be dealing with. Again, it is number one, very natural. Number two, we have a total elite global media mind control matrix formed around us that wants nothing more than to keep us in that anxious state. And so, there's a bit of sort of like holy rebellion with at least attempting, at least having the desire to cast the anxieties away from us. So, anyways, there's my rant on that. Yeah, God bless you, Rod. I mean, if this is not the sort of summation of the human battle on a daily basis, I don't know what is.
Exactly. So well said. It's one of the things that I've often considered is that are all of the present hardships and opportunities of the false reality overlay or the illusory overlay of these
Mm,
reptilian overlords, is all of it the opportunity for you as an individual, a son or daughter of God, for it to be pushed up against you so that who you are in Him can be revealed through the struggle, through the process, through the refinery, through the battle, through the, you know what I mean?
mhm.
And it's like, how about that for a mind shift? Because you're so right. You've been trained by this crazy world simulation of Nephilim lizards to focus on everything but the Word of God, to put all of, right? I need all these passcodes I got to remember. I have to pay all of these bills. All of these due dates are coming. I need to be, right? I need to get everything in order, right? And we think
Yeah.
getting our house in order is and being orderly is abiding by the beast system that harnesses the plow to our back and makes us produce. But there's liberation. You said at one point, you were like, it feels really good to get rid of the anxiety, like to let it go. So like when it comes, you realize, okay, my body's showing me, my central nervous system, maybe you're clenching your fist, maybe, right? You're starting to get a headache because you're dealing with all of the pressures of the world. That is the moment that we have the choice to release it and let it go. And that's where supernatural provision comes in, because the enemy is trying his hardest to systematically desensitize all of us to it and get you in the trauma cycle of misery and pain and frustration and confusion. God is not the author of confusion, right? So I love the way that you said that, Basil, because you let it go, you throw it away. It's like casting your cares upon Him. That's another word I started looking at in the Greek a couple weeks ago. My buddy Nick Long brought it up, and he means it means in a nutshell to throw it down, thrust it down at the feet of Him who's greater than you. And it's like, okay, so this is the beauty that the world, the spirit that's in the world, doesn't want you to understand. Because what's greater than the spirit of the world is great, the spirit who is in you, who you are sealed by. And so this is the super soldier program for heaven, is speaking faith and life and planting those seeds and watering those seeds and finding those opportunities to, man, I don't know, even be vulnerable. It's okay to not have it all together. There's so many times where I'm like, oh my God, I really need you right now, Father. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to, deal with this situation, this relationship, this business deal, this pressure that's coming on me. But these are the opportunities in the days that we live in to show ourselves we're of the faith. And there's only
Mm,
one way to do it, you guys, to be tested, to be tried, to be put in situations that are so uncomfortable that even your body is saying, oh, anxiety, oh, stress headache, oh, right? Whatever, confusion. This is where we take up the sword, we take up the armor listed in Ephesians, and we start making the declarations. And the last thing I'll say is speaking out the word of God is your powerhouse move against these Nephilim agendas. Because everything
mm.
we're facing is a byproduct of the Nephilim agenda. If you really want to get down to the nitty and gritty, all
Right.
of it is a byproduct of their strategic attack against us. So when we speak out the word, especially with an authority, and I don't mean you have to be like, over animated or anything, just be who you are. Some people can speak with an authority at a still small voice, right? You don't need to throw your hands around and talk like you're from outside of Philly like I do. I like talking with my hands. My hands are always going. But for however that communicates through, speaking the word out of your mouth, do not
Right.
underestimate the power there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm encouraged by what you said. And I know somebody out there, if you guys in the chats are, if you're getting this, thumbs up, send a message, because that's a word. Basil just gave a word. I just gave a word. And this is the body's duty that we're linking up. We're doing the things, man. So
Yeah.
it's always great.
Amen. Amen. And yeah, you're talking, speaking the words with our voice out loud. Of course, we can do this any, time of the day, basically wherever we are. but it gives me a little bit of a reminder too that sitting down and going live and having people
Hmm.
call in, is an opportunity for each and every one of us to do the same thing.
Mm.
Is in a very specific and special context, but again, like all of these spiritual things that we're called to, it all takes practice. It's a good way to practice. So if nothing else, folks, you can call in and just practice, speaking God's
Mm.
promises out loud. Well,
Certainly.
amen, man. I'm so happy you called in and happy to talk to you. What's your schedule? I see you're out and about. Are you want to hang with us a little bit, or are you off to see I don't know, the grocer again?
I think, I got a couple minutes. Maybe I could hang for one caller and just say hi to somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple more minutes, and then you never know. Maybe I'll pop up in the coming weeks again and say hi to everybody. But yeah, I got about 10 minutes if you're okay with that.
Right on, right on. Well, yeah, let's do it. Let's take another caller here. Who do we got on the list? Let me check this. Okay. I think somebody in the chat said specifically that they wanted to talk to you. I think it was Psalm 40. I don't want to put Psalm 40 on the blast, but he is here. I don't generally like to take things too out of order. But there was Psalm 40 did say this, and the next person on the list, we'll see if we got time. We'll pack everybody in, man. It'll be blast. Okay, let's talk to Sir Psalm 40. Let me click this button. Sir Psalm 40, how are you, buddy? I see your microphone is muted, so I will
There
stall.
we go.
There
Got
you
it.
are. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
What's
Hanging
up,
in
man?
there. Have another wonderful Thursday.
Awesome. I appreciate you bringing me on ahead of everybody. Um, I was kind of being a little bit tongue in cheek that, saying I'd like to talk to Rod, but
Uh-oh.
really it is like there is something that it has been kind of nagging on my spirit. Um, just like recently, Rod, I'll speak to you directly. You have been doing like the little series with Dan Duvall, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's been ongoing for about 3+ years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I The stuff that you have been releasing in the last couple of weeks, is that like old pre-recorded stuff?
No, that's new content. Dan is a friend.
Okay,
Like we talk personally, so we jot back and forth with the broadcast as people can see. Yeah.
okay. Well, I've been following your work, Rod, for at least a couple of years, and I'm pretty sure it was probably because of Canary Cry how I found you. But I think you have a great heart, man. You're one of those guys that wears your heart on your sleeve. I can see the fire on you. You're passionate, and that's attractive and encouraging to see that in another man of Christ. And so I admire you and the way that you carry yourself. And there are things about Mr. Duvall's deliverance that tripped me up. Believe it or not, I can I have my own crazy ideas and opinions, and we all do. And I am most definitely not a judge of anybody, but I cannot get over how it could be possible for a human, a man created in the image of God, to have generational sins attached to them that originated pre-Adam.
Is that a question that you want me to try to address,
It's
or is
it's
it just a?
more, yeah, it's really just an overflow of the heart, is what it is.
Mm, yeah. I mean, the first thing I'll say is in my journey with, interviewing so many different people and having the position to be able to speak with a lot of these people even privately and kind of get a glimpse right behind the scenes and to make friends with some of these people in the space. I've never agreed with everything that's come out of the mouth of every other like every person I've dealt with, right? So I'm kind of notorious for saying we all have a little something wrong and a little something right. What I will say is that it's weirder and deeper and more fringe most of the time than we'd like to admit, or even our faith journey will allow, depending on the season that we're in. And that's not to be like someone's lower if they don't understand the revelation. What I thought was interesting about what Dan does that I really believe in, as I said on the most, I guess you're referring to probably the most recent episode that dropped within the last week. Um, Genuinely, I have tapped into a lot of what he's talking about in the spirit. There's times where I was very vulnerable and transparent on the episode where I'm like, I don't get it all the time. There's times where I'm like, there's a blockade up or it doesn't make sense to me. But there's times where I'm in the spirit and I'm listening, I'm reading, I'm humbling myself before God, and I see this interconnectivity that I believe is important. So one of the things I'm noted for on the Millennial Mustard Seed is I like to highlight what people are doing right, and I always encourage the listeners for you guys to pray and to seek things out, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. I said even on that episode, don't take my word for it, don't take Dan's word for it. You seek it out. And I actually did say, is this revelation for everybody? Like, is this even important enough that everybody needs to talk about it? Or like, how do we get there? Like, because if I'm just tapping into it, I can't say that everybody else is making sense of it, right? And that's just my way of kind of saying, um, there's extreme content and perspectives that I've pushed over the years, and I don't always agree with everything, but I got a lot of love and respect for Dan. You know, I'll say the same thing publicly, I'll say privately. There's also times where I've disagreed with him and we've had minor arguments, right? It's just from a man to another man, right? But I think one of the things that people are getting a little bit confused with that, and I'll try to be short-winded, Baz. I apologize if I'm taking too long to answer in Psalm 40, but I think one of the things that was interesting for me is I got into the revelation that man defined biblically is triune, which is body, soul, and spirit. So when we see the word Adamah or man in the Bible, it's talking about three components that, this is my perspective, that make man: body, soul, and spirit. And I think a lot of the times people are using humanity or man the way that the Bible uses man to associate what Dan is talking about with pre-Adam traumas or, pre-Adam issues, right? But what he's saying is it's the spirit. So he leans into a perspective which I agree with, that God is a spirit. We must worship in spirit and truth. And so all things were made by Christ, through Christ, and for Christ, right? Just like God says to the prophet, I ordained you a prophet in your mother's womb. I knitted you together. I knew you beforehand. The reference there is before you came through the matrix or the birth canal of life, man, before you hit the scene as man defined biblically, which is body, soul, and spirit. And so I think that there's definitely something to the idea. I'm not going to say I agree exclusively with it. And I think I was pretty open on that episode, Psalms 40, that this is worth the investigation for my space, like who I am. But it's not for everybody. There's more than compelling scriptures there to be like, wow. So if I'm in Christ, right, the spirit that's in me is greater than the spirit of the world. I'm sealed in him, and he knew me before I came here. That means there's a part of my spirit that has a position, right? How am I seated in heavenly places with Christ Jesus right now? Well, I'm in my car in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? But I am seated in heavenly places in a council with the Lord. And I believe that this is language that needs digesting, and it needs humility, and it needs conversation. And I'll just say, Psalm 40, I super respect you for like kind of confronting that and being like, yo, Rod, it was a little tongue in cheek in the chat, but I want to call you out on that. An open rebuke is better than a hidden love. All right. I'm going to keep it 100
Yeah,
with you.
amen.
I don't play no games, but there's something there to digest. And I'll just end it by saying this: everybody has to take anything that you hear out of my mouth, out of anybody's mouth. You need to take it to the closet and pray about it, because there's so many layers. God conceals so much for certain times. It's just like if I go back 10 years ago on the Nephilim topic, And I'm like, there's no way reptilian people are running the world. I can tell you with a straight face right now, there's definitely shining serpents that are manipulating the illusory overlay, as best buddy Basil would say. It is taking place, my friend. Now, there's other people that I still run into that think I'm crazy for thinking that. And then I start thinking about my process of how I arrived there. And I'm like, wow, tears and reading and challenging myself and getting into word studies, spending time with the Lord over a long period of time, I'm like, I got no issues with that now. So I think that caution is totally respectable. Psalm 40, absolutely. And kudos for you, man, for calling me out, because I ain't got nothing to hide. I'll keep it 100 with you.
Yeah, iron sharpening iron, if you can imagine that illustration, it's not a pleasant process.
There's sparks. There's sparks and metal
Yes.
shavings everywhere.
Yeah. So, really, it was Michael Heiser who really made me start taking the Bible seriously. And to kind of splice into that, I appreciated Dan's grammatical spasm, all the like pre-Adamic existence being found in the opening of Genesis, how it was recreated and not actually created. I can agree with all of that. That lines up, and Heiser would agree with that also. That's where I originally heard it, and so that I'm all cool with. But I'm curious for you if this is really like the last question I have on the topic. If I could, I would like to shift to something more edifying. But what is your opinion in the book of Job? I think it's 38. God is like railing on Job, asking him, where were you and all this. Do you think that God is being sarcastic as if you weren't there, or is he trying to hint at something else, like you should know
Hmm.
these things?
Well, that's what,
Mm,
bro, that is a good question, because once
yeah, I
again, if
hadn't
God
thought
is
about it
speaking,
in that other way. Yeah, that's an interesting
yeah.
question.
Well, so my first thoughts are God is speaking to Job, who is a man who is body, soul, and spirit. So is there, I mean, are we birthed into this world with like an amnesia almost, right? Because when the scripture says that the earth moans and groans for the identity of the sons of God to be maintained, that's a fun word study. For our identity to be made known, it's kind of like this concealment where who we are right now, and what makes us right now is that's man. Once you're dead, absent from the body, present with the Lord, you're no longer a man, right? You're a ghost or a spirit. And I remember Dr. Max Botner, I've done a couple episodes with him. He first came on and we talked about spirits, right? And he's somebody who's kind of in that Mike Heiser world from Jessup University, one of these theologians who's great with Christologies, Christophanies of the Old Testament. But long story short, with your question, I think God is speaking exactly as he says to Job as a man, as a body, soul, and a spirit. Where were you? So I'm a literalist to the point where I believe the Bible's literal until it can't be taken literal. And then it becomes parabolic or metaphoric or just the multi-layered effect, right? So there's definitely a humiliating statement that God is making known to Job right there. Like, where were you? You weren't a body, soul, and a spirit in cognitive existence, right? Where you could cry out and exist and experience stuff. Where were you? But I don't really know what else to say to that. I think that's a cliffhanger for sure. That's an excellent question. Maybe Basil can help brush up on that, but it
No, I
perplexes me
mean,
a little bit. And this is why I'm back and forth. This is why I'll tell you I don't know. If I don't know, I'll
it's
tell you.
yeah, no, it's great. I love the question. I had never thought of it that way. My immediate instinct is actually I'm a bit less concerned with the answer to that question and more entertained by how that sort of expands my understanding of like what was happening in that moment, or at least if not expanding my understanding, expanding my curiosity. Because you're right, it goes, where were you when I created the earth? And it could be both like how I think most of us take it, like you weren't there, you
It
don't know,
actually
or
it
the
reminds
other
me
way.
of, I'm sorry, but real quick, it reminded me of Adam. Where are you?
Yeah, yeah, it's got
God knew where he was.
yeah. Yeah, well, and the other side of it is like, where were you? Like, you were right there. Remember this, like, call for Job to remember, which
That is
the Old
so good.
Testament is just I mean, for me, often I look at the cycles of the Old Testament, and it's just a
Yes.
constant cycle of forgetting and remembering. And,
Yes.
this is not to say, I don't know, I think that we can remember our material lives. I don't know any about that. Maybe this question opens up too much of that for me to even go down the rabbit hole. But it is also an interesting dynamic between God and Job, where God's basically saying, like, you saw me do this. Like, you know that I created everything. You were there, perhaps. And so, what's your deal with pretending that you don't know who I am? Both ways it kind of
Mm.
chastises Job in similar ways, whether he was or was not, had some sort of pre-Adamic existence. But I just think
That's so
God's
good.
attitude there is so fun.
That's so good, Baz. Wow.
Yeah, and you and I, Baz, actually had the conversation about remember in the Bible. In the book of Deuteronomy, the term remember is used more than any other word.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a book, it's Moses's farewell, like his final, hey guys, you better get this straight. And he kept telling them, remember what happened in Egypt. Remember when God destroyed Babel. Remember these things. This is who we serve.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing, man. I mean, again, even back to the anxiety conversation, how do you let go of anxiety? How is that possible? Well, for me, it's remembering all the times that God took care of it, remembering the promises that he's made. Remember, it feels like most of our struggles come from either misremembering or forgetting to remember exactly God's place. It's similar to the thing with Job. Like, where were you when I took care of this last time? Like, where were you when I brought you out of that disaster? Where were you? Like, either where were you? Were you not paying attention? I mean, we were there every time God has saved us from the worst possible outcome in our lives. We were there. We have no excuse not to remember how many times that he's done it, and
So good.
reminded us of his glory. Yeah,
I
no,
if I I'm sorry. I really want to I want to pick I wish I could pick Rod's brain. I have another question for him, but I'm going to go with fear and anxiety instead. When you were talking about that earlier, of course, the first thing that came to my mind was perfect love casts out all fear. And what is love? It's kind and patient, and it doesn't insist on its own way. So if the
It endures
opposite,
all things.
exactly, even anxiety and fear, but the opposite of fear, it's a cliche, a corny cliche, but it's faith. Because if you are anxious about something, you are expecting, you are you having faith in something bad that's going to happen to you.
right. Yeah. Yeah, which
So
is a scary thought.
is there a question? I don't know if I missed it, Psalm 40, if there's a question there,
No,
or
no,
just
that
want me
that was
to.
just
Oh,
yeah, that was just a random thought. But totally off subject. My question I had for you is totally off subject. It was back to literal Bible, unless you had something
mhm.
to say.
One thing I'll say, and the first thought I had as you brought that up, the opposite of fear being faith. It's possible. I mean, faith is the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of the unseen. Fear can sometimes be what you're being stared down by, right? For those people out there who've had cryptid encounters or seen stuff in the sky or sleep paralysis. Good friend of mine, Vicky Joy Anderson, was just talking with her earlier today. People do experience that. So sometimes fear can be what's in your room, but it also, the enemy can mess you up where you fabricate scenarios in your mind that aren't even real. Like somehow you land in your thinking process about you're fearing an outcome that's not even your reality. So that's an interesting one with fear. And then the placebo and nocebo effect is an interesting one, Psalm 40. Take a look at the medical terms placebo and nocebo. I've talked about those on the show before, which placebo is you having this negative connotation about the outcome of taking a medicine, right? So they'll do these blind studies where you get a sugar pill, but you're told it's whatever, an aspirin or some type of medication, and people will actually bring on the via negativa, the side effects, and they'll produce it themselves. There's nothing in the medication that actually rewires, the brain or messes with the body's systems. And the nocebo is this medical term where you automatically associate something negative happening from a medication, and you bring on those negative connotations. And this can happen in the good too, like people with the placebo. I mean, people have actually taken a sugar pill and was told it was a pain reliever, and their GABA receptors in their brain cut off pain signals, just like it was an opiate or something like that. Like, it's crazy when you look at the intelligent design of the body and how our beliefs really do affect the world around us. But that's kind of all I had to say, is just take a peek into that. It's a little bit weird and fun to dig around with. And did you have
Yeah.
a final question for me? I got kind of a hard close in like 2-3 minutes here.
Yeah, it's such a can of worms though. But taking the Bible literally, how do you do that in the case of Jesus Christ talking about his return in this generation, and then, Paul and Peter and John all saying that they are sharing in the last hour in time of tribulation, et cetera, et cetera. Have you given this topic its due diligence, or do you
Oh
trust
yeah.
the experts?
I mean, I trust the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's our teacher at the end of the day. I respect and love, and I try to highlight the experts. I don't always agree. I did episodes, a couple minis, right, with Pete from the Days of Noah, shout out to him, on time. And we started looking at the Curios and the Chronos and looking at time in general. And bro, you're asking me questions that like are an episode. My God, this is pressure to try to get a decent answer. But I'll say it like this. We all have a little something wrong. We all have a little something right. Jesus went up into the clouds and he will return on the clouds. I also did a mini episode on clouds. It's mentioned, so many times in the Bible. It's not, clouds are not what most people think they are. It's worth your time to look into clouds, guys. My God, it's fantastic. But he's going to return on the clouds. Literally, I believe in the Hashemayim's, he's going to crack the sky like a supernova, pull back the veil, and step down. I believe that literally. I don't think it's allegory or metaphorical or poetic language or something mystical or only spiritual. I think he's gonna, remake the heavens and the earth, as he says. Now, when all this happens, I'm not a timeline guy. I don't get into that like date setting and all that stuff. As far as those guys, the apostles, like you mentioned, Psalms 40 saying we're living in the last hours, we're living in these last moments. There, once again, there's some really deep synchronicities into this idea of time being for us. And sometimes when people are speaking about time, they're speaking about the time slot they're allowed or allotted to exist experientially, but that is not to be experienced for all time slots and for all ages, right? Like, supposedly we're 2,000 years after the Bible was written and the Messiah rose from the grave. I don't think God sees time like that. I think if you died 2,000 years ago and you died yesterday, you arrived at heaven gates at the same time, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. But you're asking like really good questions. Dude, you need to email me and write up some questions, and I'll do a mini episode based on, some of these ideas, because there's no way I would just sound like a mumbling idiot if I tried to like run through and qualify it. You would really have to do like a Bible study and qualify. You have such good questions. It's a compliment.
Yes. The problem is that, like, I'm afraid I'm a Christian who's in that position where they're afraid to ask questions, because I see the strife and I see the contention. There's fallout happening all over the place. You know what I mean? Like there are Christian investigators that I have been
Mm,
following for, I've only been a Christian for maybe a dozen years, but I've
mm.
been following these people the whole
That's a long
time, and
time.
just,
My God,
yeah,
a
well,
dozen years.
suddenly it just seems like these tensions are rising as time passes, and
Yeah.
I we can all agree on who Christ is, so I don't understand why I can't ask whatever I want to ask, you know?
No, you can. You can. It was Basil and Gons. I was actually on the phone with Baz earlier, and we were just chatting, and I mentioned to him, like, it's crazy that I get to call you my friend. In 2017, I was listening to you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and these guys, Basil and Gons, just so much love to these guys because they helped my process of, and I've testified on this before. This is nothing brand new, that they were demonstrating to me, just as I read in First Peter, right? Demonstrate yourself in humility among the body, right? Don't take it for granted. Be a willing servant. They were showing me it's okay to ask questions. The Bible's not going to evaporate and disappear because you got complex questions. Any level of investigation, it's going to be beautiful, and those who seek will find. Those who knock, it'll be opened up to you. Your persistence, you got to want God more than you want your next breath. You got to want God more than you want the next armchair researcher's definition about this and that. You got to want God more than you want anything in the world. You got to be willing to look like a psycho person. You got, like the Apostle Paul says, I am beside myself for Christ, right? I'm willing to put myself in positions to look crazy for his sake. And it takes a little bit of that psycho energy to chase after the Lord. And everything that you get is not always going to be like the game changer answer when you have a good question. But I guarantee you, Psalm 40, if you continue to press in and sit with the Lord, he'll highlight what I call the majors: humility, meekness, love. Like, this is why I work with people that I disagree with, because I love them. I'm like, oh, let me highlight what you're doing right. I'll let you challenge me because I love you, not because I agree with everything you're saying, not because my head's nodding yes to every word coming out of your mouth, but man, you got to test the spirits. And I actually really enjoyed the time I got here on Canary Cry. I feel like I was here a lot longer than I should be or can
Oh,
be,
you're good,
but
man.
I love it, man. I love it. Thank you, Psalm 40, for great questions, and Basil for the grace for letting me rant on for the first part of this.
Oh, of course, man. You gotta take off if we hit your time limit here.
Yeah, I've hit my time limit.
Okay. Well, God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
God
Yeah,
bless you, bro. I'm gonna
I
talk
will
to you.
say, just with in reference to, yes, that last part of the conversation. Um, yeah, I mean, we have always been, I think, since the very beginning, it's always been very important to us, to for anybody to ask any crazy question and to be able to, in good faith, go back and forth, even if there's a disagreement or whatever. And there are times in the history of Canary Cry where we have occasionally run into somebody who is absolutely closed off to any sort of question or exploration of certain things, and we just don't end up talking to them again. It just doesn't work out. Those are not the kinds of people that we want to spend time with, because yeah, there is it profits all of us to share in our faith, share in our searching out the mysteries of God. And when I'm around, this happened when I was in various churches. I was in various churches that questions were not as welcomed as others, and so you know what, I didn't ask them questions. I asked other people questions. I stuck with my
Yes.
crazy people, and that's just
Yeah.
kind of how it is. God bless them if they don't want to talk about what the deal was pre-Adamic, times. That's fine. I got other people I can talk to. So
Mhm.
that's
Do you, do
we're
you
given
still
this
love me
blessing.
if we disagree?
That's
That's
right.
the ultimate question.
Exactly, and that's what we try to do here. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Sir
so
Salt.
much, guys.
Take it easy,
Yeah.
Rod.
Thank you, Rod.
Blessings, man.
You
Until
bet.
next time.
God bless. Did I do it?
Well, that
I
was
did.
fun.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for throwing that out there. And yeah, no, I totally love the the coming in with a confrontation about something, which really was not even a confrontation at all. It was a question about something that showed up on his show. That's an important thing to do.
Yeah,
Um,
it went much better than I was expecting, honestly.
well, I'm happy to hear that. Went just about as perfect as it could have, in my opinion. So,
Yeah,
well,
and another thing, I just got to say that this really feels like it must have been a divine appointment, because I was literally talking about this exact thing. Like, I wish I could get to talk to this guy, and it literally
yeah.
just happened.
Hey, there you go, man. Canary Cry Clubhouse makes it happen. That's why you show up live, man. Well, is there anything else on your mind here? We threw the timer out the window, but I think it was for profitable reasons. So we might give.
No, I butted in line too, so I should probably bolt.
You're all good. All right, Sir Psalm 40. Thank you very much, buddy. Great to talk to you. Call in again.
Yeah. God bless.
God bless. There we go. Fun times. We're loosey goosey, baby. We're making it happen. Next up on the list, we got Mr. B. Moore Busker. Gonna bring him up on stage. What's going on, B. Moore Busker? How are you, buddy?
All right, man. How you doing?
Hanging in there, staying alive.
That's great. Grooving.
What's on your mind today?
Not way too much. I mean, just trying to get by and, do my thing, play music. That's the main thing. That keeps me afloat, playing music.
That's good. I was going to ask if you're staying sane, but it sounds like playing the music is part of staying sane for you.
Absolutely. That's definitely a big part of it, for sure. And working on instruments too. Like I do that quite a bit.
Like
And
repairing
yeah,
accordions or something?
yeah, accordion, Cajun accordions. Well, not just repair, just making them better. Like
Ooh, modding, upgrades.
yeah, totally. Like there's certain boxes I've got that need a little bit of a leak, right? Because if you don't have a leak in them, they'll bust some of the piccolo reeds, the real tiny ones inside the treble side. Like you got 80 reeds in the treble side, and the piccolo reeds can bust. So, where was I going with this?
Sounds like accordions are really complicated pieces of machinery. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess I would, yeah.
there's like 4 sets of reeds. You got the piccolo, the high reeds, the 2 mids, and the bassoon, the low reeds. So you got
You
4
say
sets.
reeds, for those who might not have context, they're like little pieces of wood that vibrate when
No,
air goes
it's
over them.
actually, these are steel reeds. They're riveted, like these little metal tongues, steel tongues riveted to these rectangular pieces of metal, whether they're made of zinc or aluminum, or they used to make them out of lead and zinc back in the old days. But like that, they definitely they have a different set. They make a different sound, but yeah, they're little pieces of steel that vibrate, and what makes them vibrate is the air going through the bellows. So it's basically, they call it a free reed instrument.
Considering how old of technology accordions are, it seems like maybe definitely some watchers or some aliens had a hand in
Yeah,
technological marvel.
Oh man, they like, it goes back a long ways. I think the first free reed, it's called a free reed instrument because you don't have to play it with your mouth or make any air go through it with your mouth, your
Right.
lungs. So that the first one I heard from an accordion builder, he told me it was called a zhang, and it's made by a Chinaman way centuries ago. And it's this.
No, they were pretty high tech. The Chinese were pretty high tech pretty early.
Yeah, it wasn't really an accordion, but it was a free reed. Like they made it like sound by using something. I don't know. I can't remember how.
Air was moving somehow. Somehow
Yeah,
air was moving. That's what matters.
ZHENG. I think that's how
So
it's
do you repair accordions or instruments like professionally, or is this just not, I don't mean to say just a hobby. Is it a hobby, or is this something you
Oh well, no, that's all good, man. Yeah, I mean, it's been since 2003. Since I started I had one I could muck around with, and then I bought some really expensive ones, like, like Cajun accordions. I thought 1200 was bad back in the day, man. They've gone up like big time, but as they should, everything's going up, right?
so this is something that you just repair them for your own interest. You're not a professional accordion repairman.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like I do like try to improve every single thing I've got. In fact, I've got something from the 1800s that's down in Louisiana, and I sent it down before my father passed, and he's this guy Martin, Junior Martin, Clarence Martin is working on this 1800s accordion and doing some rebuilding to it to make it work better because it had some problems. But yeah,
You know, I'm realizing right now, I have an old crazy accordion that I got from a thrift store in
no
maybe like
shit.
2000, maybe like 2012 or 13. And I just thought it looked so cool, and I got it, and it doesn't work very well, and now it sits in a case, and I always thought that I would, get it fixed or do something, but it's basically just a display accordion now. When I look at it, I go, "Wow, this thing's old. This
Yeah.
cool. This thing must be, it feels like I got a piece of ancient history." Now, I mean, I don't know anything about accordions, so it could just be like some kid's practice accordion from 2005 or something. But if I remember, I'll take some pictures of it, and then
Yeah, I want to see some
yeah, you
pictures.
can what appraise my accordion, see if we can
Yeah,
get something good.
like is it a piano key accordion or is it
Yes. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
piano key one.
and it's got buttons on the other side. How many buttons does it have on the other side? Say
Like
like 12
like
or something?
10,000. Like,
10,
there's
wow.
a
So
ton of
that's a
them. I don't know, it's a ton of buttons.
yeah, it's
It's
got
been a while since I've busted it out, but I'll have to go bust it out. We'll
if
see what we can do.
yeah, man, that's got to be like really a hard thing to work on. I wouldn't dream to work on one of those because um all those reeds inside that thing and the mechanics of the bass side with all those buttons and like,
Uh-huh.
oh man, I wouldn't want to muck with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's kinda what I thought. I said, "Oh, I'll fix it, I'll figure it out," and then I just sat there staring at it being like, "No, there's no way. There's no way I can do this."
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean like it's it might be fixable, but are
it's
there
okay.
any
I don't have any time to learn the accordion. Seeing as how many buttons that thing has on it, like, I don't have time to figure out all those buttons. I'm coming to an age now where I'm a little bit more willing to admit my limitations, and I think maybe one of my limitations is learning a bazillion button accordion, and that's okay with me until God calls me to learn that accordion. I will
are can I
sit
can
and
I ask you, Basil, does when you hold it and or move it around, does anything bounce around inside of it?
It's been so many years since I've picked it up. If I had to
Oh,
guess, I would my instinct is that, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of rattling going on in there.
yeah, I'm thinking like because if it's that old and it's is it been sitting in somewhere really, really dry or really humid
Uh,
or
it's in a case in my garage, I don't
so it's
it
just like
hasn't been
whatever the
sitting.
weather is. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
kinda whatever.
Yeah, that could be a hard thing to fix, but I mean, I don't know.
I just gotta find the right collector. That's what I need. It's my retirement plan is to get it assessed. I need to get it assessed for about 1,500,000, and then I need to
There you
find
go.
an incredibly rich accordion collector who knows what I got.
What do you know the brand of it?
No, I've been trying to think of it this whole time. I would have to go back and look at it. I'll
It'd be
go
cool.
after the show, I'm gonna see if I can remember. Excuse me. I'll go open it up, see what I can do. Maybe I'll make sure to take some pictures. So next Thursday or next Clubhouse, I'll try to have them just lined up if I can remember.
Awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
bro.
great. Yeah,
Look at
like working on one of those would be a nightmare. If the like the reeds, they go in like all accordions, no matter what, they got these blocks that are sized to the reeds, like they're cut like these wooden blocks, and the reeds sit up against these rectangles because they are rectangles. The rectangular cavities, they sit on top of the cavities, right? And you put reed wax, which is rosin mixed with beeswax, and you put that around them. And I don't like to do it like the professionals do it, because I would make a mess. They like drip it in with like a plunger or whatever they do, an eyedropper. Um, I can't imagine doing that. I just roll up the wax, put it in between the reeds, put over top the reeds and at the bottom, and melt them with like a lighter and a knife.
Sounds like a pain in the butt to me.
Yeah, I mean, like and my vision's so bad I can't muck with it anymore. So I try not to do any of that. I can possibly tune a push reed because that's on the top. The pull reed's on the bottom, so that
I'll
has
just
to come out.
I'll just list it for as is. That'll be the thing. It's part of marketing too. Say no, we didn't fix it, because then it would take away the authenticity. You see these what are they called? Antique roadshow things, and I remember seeing this one where this guy had this revolver from like the Civil War or something, and he brings
Yeah.
it in and he's like, "This is my grandpa's revolver from the Civil War. It's legit. It's even got Civil War bullets in it or whatever." And the guy appraising it says, "Wow, this would be worth $1 million if you didn't clean it before you got here," because he had taken a wire brush and like wire brushed over the whole thing to like make it shiny. He's like, "Oh, if you didn't fix it, then it'd be worth $1 million. But now
Really?
here
So it was just the cleaning, or did you do like mechanically alter it?
I think he took like a real wire brush to it, so I think it kind of like he was trying to scrape off rust, and I think he did enough of it that it took away from the like, I don't know, the patina.
Yeah,
You
patina. I was
these
just gonna say
antique
that.
people,
Yeah,
the
dude.
antique people love their patina. You gotta pay extra for the patina.
Yeah, dude. Like, I got some of these accordions. Well, they got 10 buttons, right? These Cajun accordions, and each button opens a valve on the outside. You can see them, and you push and pull, and it makes noise and all that. So I have some buttons that are brass, and I got this one just sitting there. I'm just waiting for it to like kind of oxidize.
Oh, get the patina. I know.
Yeah,
Brass is a gold mine, if you will, when it comes to patina. This
yeah.
is good, man. Thanks everybody for tuning into my new podcast, Accordion Talk with Basil and Beamer Busker. I think we can, I think we've got a market for just pure accordion podcast talk.
Dude, that would be great, man. But,
Well, if
I mean,
anybody
like,
could do it, you could do it. Be more Busker. It's always great to talk to you, buddy. I
yeah,
think
absolutely. I
we'll go ahead.
appreciate you having me up, brother.
You bet. Thanks for bringing some variety to the show, buddy. God bless.
Good times, man. All right, see you later.
Bye. Look at that. You won't get variety like that anywhere else, folks. That's what Clubhouse is all about. If anybody wants to buy a seemingly very old accordion, possibly not very old, but and you've got some real accordion disposable income, send me an email. I got some pictures of a pretty sweet accordion for you. All right, we got another caller here. Let's check in on how Old John is doing. Old John, you're on the show. What's up, buddy?
Whoops. Hang on one second. Sorry.
No worries. You got time. We got all the time in the world.
Okay. Hey, man.
What's up? What are you up to?
Well, I'm looking for an accordion, and I will pay any price.
Good answer. Oh, that's hilarious. Well, what else you got on your mind today?
Well, I don't know, man. Not a ton. What about you?
It's the beauty of doing this show is if anything comes to mind, I just immediately blurt it out, and then it's not on my mind anymore. You know, things don't stick around for very long up in the old noggin when you do a show like this. So I'm right now an empty vessel, which is that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple questions for you. I'd like to hear you ramble about a couple things.
Great.
But I also got to say, for I don't know, probably a month ago, I really felt like I should call in, and I chickened out. And last week I called in for the first time, and I seriously almost hung out or hung up before you called me up. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm glad you stuck around, man. I'm glad you stuck around. You nailed it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think everybody should call in. I'm down to hear about whatever.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. We're not in control of this show. This is God's show. No pressure.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear about all the homestead stuff you'd want to talk about. Oh. And I think soon I'll be moving out to the country, and
sweet.
Yeah.
You mean you want to move out to the country? Do you have plans to move to the country? Is this a desire of your heart, or is this plan in motion?
It could be in motion.
Yeah.
I could do it any day if I wanted, but I don't know. It's
what's stopping you? What's stopping you?
That's a good question.
It's my job.
I don't know.
That's exactly right, bro. There's nothing stopping you. For me, and thanks for kind of asking this question, but it's been a while since I stopped doing Basil's Bunker. I've talked a lot less about the homesteading thing, but I've probably told the story before. So, excuse if I've already said it, but I kind of had it easy when it came to actually making the decision to go off grid and do the thing, because I did it right in the middle of COVID. And so there was just a vibe on earth of like, it's now or never, baby. Whatever you want to do with your life, it's now or never. No looking back. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know if whatever, if it's the apocalypse or if there's martial law or if whatever. And I did have the conversation with myself, with God, and with others when I was figuring it out, because of course there was like what if I get out there and I don't like it, or it doesn't, or I'm bad at it, or for whatever reason. And it's funny because the sort of holy simplicity, which now seems to me obvious, but when you're in it does not seem obvious, is then you just move back into town. It's as simple as that,
Yeah.
You just say, whoops, gave it a try. At least for the rest of my life, I can say I gave it a try, and I don't have to sit and wonder and ponder and yearn for the rest of my millennial life to go off grid or do the homestead thing. I can say that I did it. Didn't work out. I'm back in town, baby. But so far, so good. I mean, I've said it before. For the most part, everything involved in doing the homestead off-grid thing, for the most part, everything is significantly easier than you think it would be, but it is still a huge pain in the butt. I mean, you change your idea of what your day looks like, but it's fun. You do it. You take complete control. I mean, I don't know if you're looking at going off the grid or just out in the country, generally or something. But overall, everything is way easier than I thought it was going to be. And, you just start building skills, man. You build a lot of skills you weren't expecting. I was, a little bit afraid, like, oh, I don't have all the skills that I need to go off grid. I don't have the electrical skills or the plumbing skills or these types of things. And I'll tell you what, anything that you would need to do out in the country or off grid or whatever, some other person has done before you. And
Yeah.
they probably weren't as smart. They probably weren't as good looking. They probably weren't as motivated. Somebody in worse shape than you has made it
Right.
work. And so you can make it work.
Well, yeah. I don't know where to go.
Are you looking at going like fully off grid or just like on some property outside town, something like that?
It has electrical, so it's my dad's farm.
You already have it. You have a
Yes.
location.
I'm afraid so. I'm sorry to say.
Get on out there, bro. Get out on the farm.
I know,
No
dude.
reason not to be on a farm right now.
Yeah, I've been wrapping stuff up, where I live, and I just got to pull the trigger. I don't know. I love being out there.
Yeah. Do it, bro.
My brother lives right down the street, and he's a chicken farmer. Like, he's kind of taking a break right now, but he was doing like egg distribution and chicken meat, packing meat.
So you're like the black sheep of the family who's living in the urban environment.
Oh, no. Not in that way.
Okay.
In every other way, I'm a black sheep, but
well, the sheep's got to return to the farm, baby. That's the thing with the black sheep. They talk a lot about the black sheep, but when the black sheep gets back to the farm, it is the literal farm equivalent of the prodigal son.
Well, so do you grow crops?
Not very effectively. No, I don't have any major agriculture going on right now. I have big plans to try my hand at potatoes because they're fairly easy. And, the soil quality and stuff is always something that's a concern. I'm not a very good gardener. I've got some sweet garden boxes, got a sweet little setup for the garden. I am not good. I'll say this. I'm not good at putting in the time and the energy that results in like an impressive garden. But that's a little bit more regarding my temperament. I'm much more animal focused. Love the ranching. I'd call myself more of a rancher than a farmer. If I had to go in one direction or another, that would be the way. Still have plans to get, become an emu rancher.
Yeah.
Big dreams.
What do you think about sheep and goats? Very biblical.
You mean as far as livestock? I got a couple goats. I love these goats. They're cute little goats. They're very sassy, but very, very chill. They're not little terrorists. I've heard people talk about how good they're basically farm terrorists. Mine are very cute. I have two females though, so I don't have a rowdy boy goat.
Yeah, that's where I was wanting to start, and it would be safer and easier than cows.
Easy peasy. Yeah,
Okay,
bro.
but let me ask
2026 goat milk is that's a gold mine, bro. You might as well be pumping oil out of the ground. Yeah, the hippies, the RFK types, the off-gridders. Everybody wants the fresh goat milk.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you think about wheat?
About growing it?
Yes.
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, in the food system, there are some issues with the wheat. One of the big things, like the idea of getting into like professional large agriculture is a little intimidating to me because apparently it's not very profitable. It seems like a ton of work. You need a bunch of some big tractors, which look,
Mhm.
love tractors, love driving the little tractor. I've got this tiny little fun tractor. But the system of agriculture seems very aggressive, like the John Deere. I'm looking at like the John Deere things where like if you got to pay like $1 million to get the tractor and the equipment to take care of your field, and then you don't even own it, like you're not allowed to fix it. There's a ton of systematic sort of chicanery, shenanigans rather, in the like ag system. And then God forbid you get like Monsanto on your butt being like, hey, you got to use our seeds, or a seed from your neighbor's field fell onto your field, so now you owe us all this money. And you just hear horror stories like that. But
About wheat specifically, or
no, I
farming?
guess I've heard most of that with like corn, like those big
Yeah.
monocrops. But wheat seems pretty easy, honestly. The other side of it, I mean, I don't know anything about growing wheat, but it seems like a not super complicated plant. But the big danger with eating wheat in our country is that they spray it with the what is it called? Raid? No,
240D.
yeah, whatever it is, not raid, Roundup. Where they'll spray the Roundup after the harvest because it increases harvest or whatever. And then, I don't want to be near crazy chemicals like that. But you could probably, and last but not least, you have to grow so much wheat. It's like
Yes.
an acre of wheat for a loaf of bread or something insane like that. So, if you were going to go like like farmers market route, like live the small farmer life, it seems like it'd be kind of difficult to do. But that's just me. Don't let me discourage you from growing wheat if your heart is in wheat, bro.
I am a big fan of wheat. I think so. What you're talking about is like doing it the factory farming way, which
Yeah.
I would not do. And would it be profitable? I don't know. But what I do know is I bought 1 ton, a literal ton, 2,000 pounds of wheat in like 2022. And guess how much I paid for it?
Why did you buy a ton of wheat in 2022?
Well, I've been,
You've
dabbling in the homestead thing for a while.
Okay.
So
let me-
I was wanting to. Well, so first of all, I eat it every day. I grind it myself and eat it,
Okay, that's cool.
and
You're
I
like
highly
halfway there.
recommend it. Yes. So, if you don't mind me, well, so there's this lady named Sue Becker, and if you look her up, she talks about wheat a lot. She sells it, so she's got incentive to talk about it. But I just believe in it. It's like it's a pretty cool thing. It's very biblical.
How much
Also.
did you pay for a ton of wheat?
Oh, $700.
Wow.
And I've been eating it since then, 2022. I've
say,
been eating it every day since then. I got a lot left.
so what does it come in 50-pound bags, or how
No,
you see big bags? How much are big bags?
I bought a tote, so the whole ton was in the tote.
Like a
It's like,
pallet.
yeah, basically a pallet.
Yeah.
A huge sack.
Sounds like you really got a passion for wheat, my man.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I believe in it. I think there's a reason people have been eating wheat forever,
Yeah,
and
well, and
so
if there's one crop, at least in America, that needs to be redeemed, but
amen.
because of the wheat that we all have access to is poisoned and GMO and horrible. And like, if you're gonna pick a crop to redeem in America, wheat seems like the best one to do. So I feel like if you've got a calling to redeem wheat, I think that's a pretty solid calling.
Is your chicken feed? You mentioned you're going to town to buy feed. Is that a certain percentage of wheat, like a high percentage? A lot of times it is.
You know, that's a good question. To be honest, I'm not like super. I have not dove super into the labels of the chicken feed. I try to get the best that I can. I don't know. I'm sure there's a bunch of wheat in it. But yeah, the chickens will eat basically all the kitchen kitchen scraps, and then just get some like crumble and some scratch and stuff, throw it out there.
Do you feed them chicken scraps?
No, no. Although they are savage, dude. These chickens, they hunt, they kill mice. If a mouse gets into the chicken coop, that dude is done for.
That's awesome. In my backyard, and my favorite thing to do is give one a piece of fruit and then watch them, play football with it. Like, one would take off and like they have to put it down to peck it, and then another one would pick it up and run off with it.
It's a very competitive field out there in the chicken field. Let me ask you this: so, how big of a if you wanted to grow wheat, how many acres would you have available to you to grow wheat?
Well, almost seems impolite to say.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't
like 25.
25 acres?
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. I was gonna say, with the wheat thing, you would need some serious acreage to make it work, I think.
Yes. Okay. So, but I'm not thinking like compete with, Monsanto farmers, but just keep it for personal use. And then, it's organic. And dude, honestly, if you add for lack of a better word, like real bread, like wheat you grind yourself and make bread out of.
Right.
And by the way, I'm not that cool. I just grind it and then dump it into a bread machine and it does it for me.
That's what I'm saying, man. All this stuff is so easier than one would think. It's all easier. Take that same concept and apply it to going off the grid or getting out into the country. It's all the same. You're just grinding the wheat, you throw it in a machine. That's basically the whole thing. One lousy petunia says she'll buy your bread, your wheat. So there you go.
Free to Sing Psalms has been looking into it, but I think I would do it more small scale. And also you're talking about the John Deere tractors. There's absolutely no way I would buy a new tractor.
Oh, of course.
And I couldn't afford it, but I would find an old one. And also, back in the day, their implements were tow behind. It wasn't like a huge combine that has its own engine. You would hook everything up to the back of a tractor, a normal tractor. And I think we need to get machines like that going again. Also, you can do it all by hand. You can take a freaking sickle out there,
John, old John, we know we can do it by hand. Okay, we know it's possible. We know. Nobody wants to do that, old John.
Well, I don't know, man. Like if I don't know. You're right. You're right. Of course.
Let me tell you this. We have one more caller we're going to get to. We're going to get him here in a second. But if today you were like, you know what? I'm doing it. Let's go. How soon could you be living out on the farm?
There's just
like how many preparations? Like, do you need to give 2 weeks at your job? Do you need to?
I'm self-employed.
Get out of your lease. Do you have a lease you got to get out of? That kind of thing. Like, if you decided today, 100%, I'm doing it. How soon could you do it?
I could do it tomorrow. I'm self-employed, and my last job, I got ahead financially, so I'm kind of had the first vacation I've had in like 10 years. For 10 years I've been working, like it's been difficult to not work on Sunday, like just working all the time. You know how it is when you're self-employed, like you work all the time and make no money is what
Yeah, that's the
seems
fun of
like.
it. That's the glory of working for yourself is you never stop working and you don't make any money.
Ever,
So,
yes, right.
what's the deal, bro? There's something you're not telling me, man. There's something holding you back. Is it a girl? Is there a girl?
Nope, there's not. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to.
Just uncertainty, too many possibilities. Am I
So
right? It's the future's too wide open.
I had to move my shop to another place, and so I've been getting that set up and kind of taking it easy. Like I said, it's my first vacation in a long time.
I see.
So I don't know. I'm terrible at changing gears. Like I have a ton of momentum. Like when I'm doing a job or working on something, then I'm doing it. Or when I'm doing nothing, I'm really doing. I'm not doing anything. You know what I
I'm
mean?
exactly
I'm
the
not
same way.
moderate.
Yep. I'm exactly the same way. And that's why it took something like a global pandemic or plandemic to actually get me to pull the trigger. It took like a serious event to actually make it happen. No, I totally understand that. And I also totally understand, you feel like you actually can take a break for once in your life. Like things are safe, things are easy right now. And, going out and making a rash decision to make things harder, I could see the fear of looking back and being like, why didn't I just keep it simple? Why didn't I just, take it easy? I do understand all that. And I'll tell you this, and this is my answer to you. This is how it's been for me my entire life. And it took me a long, long time to actually realize this, identify it, see it happen in my life, and then see it through and sort of actually experience a process that was actually a process that was happening the whole time, but I just wasn't paying attention to it. It was like subconscious. I felt totally, I just wasn't paying attention. And now that I see how God does this in my life, I can look back and see every decision I've ever made basically followed this, this pattern, right? And it starts with, there's some sort of seed. Either that seed gets planted or it's an idea I've had for a long time and it's just there and it sounds cool. I like to fantasize about it. I think about it. I'm like, this dude, that would be awesome. But then actually either A, doing the work to make it possible to do that thing, is a whole bunch of work and I can't quite get in the groove of it, or I don't quite take the steps to make it happen. Or I just sit and I fantasize about it all the time. If it's something like your situation, like the farm's there, it's easy peasy. I could do it any day I want. But sometimes we enjoy the fantasy of it a little bit more. We think about it every day or every couple days, and it makes us feel good to think about. And that's good. Sometimes that's enough just to let the idea of it give us a little bit of pleasure once in a while. That's totally fine until God moves in a way that I just get obsessed about it. And it starts very slowly, like falling asleep or falling in love, old John. It starts very slowly, and then overnight, it just happens. I have to do it. I have to do it. Nothing else matters. It's the only thing I can focus on. It's the only thing I care about. I look around, my priorities are not what they used to be. And it just seems very clear. Like God aligns things that it is so clear that I am not interested in anything else going on around me. And then boom, it just happens. So if this is something I think you're sitting on, You're thinking about it. You like it. Maybe the family is kind of like, hey, man, come on out to the farm. It's great, but you're kind of enjoying where you're at a little bit. Maybe you don't want to complicate things. Maybe, you got it's just not like your full on obsession, or like you don't feel like you're almost in a sort of avalanche of motivation. That feeling when suddenly, inexplicably, everything in your body is suddenly motivated. Not that you even want it any more or less than you did, but motivation's a very mysterious thing. We all know this. We can all want something. We can think about it. We know that we can do it, but then we just don't. It's like we just can't. It just doesn't get started. We just don't take the first step. And sometimes I think that's God. That's God's timing. For me, that's God saying like, hey, you're aware of what I want for you, but now's not the time, okay? Don't do it on your own power. Don't do it on your own motivation. Just wait. And then overnight, suddenly, inexplicably, it's the only thing that I can start moving towards. And it feels like to me that you might be a little bit similar. We obviously have some things in common, and anybody out there who's self-employed and this kind of stuff, it takes a special kind of person for it to actually work. And I think part of what actually even makes that work is it is possible. We understand, we are aware of these times in our life when a switch just flipped, and then suddenly we're going for it. It's the only thing that matters. So I think it's just a matter of time for you. And I think it's okay to be patient, to wait till God you'll wake up one morning and you'll just be like, today is the day.
Yeah.
Does that resonate? Does that sound like you? Am I just talking to
I think so, man. And somebody in the chat is on my case, but I have been working on stuff in transition, but yeah, man, no, I think you're right.
Yeah, don't stress about it.
I'm glad I called, man. Yeah, I'm glad I started calling. Last week I was so nervous I couldn't even, like focus.
I understand. Sometimes I feel the same way too, even just starting my own show. So I totally understand. Old John, I thank you for calling today, buddy. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
I hope you call in again. I hope our chat helped. Keep us posted. One of these days, whenever God's timing aligns, you'll call into the show and I'll hear a rooster crowing behind you, or I'll hear a goat baying on the other line, and we'll know that you did it. You keep us posted.
Yeah, dude. Also, you were talking about taking a road trip to Texas, so you should visit.
I will. I will. Oh, you're in Texas. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, on the list of things that I feel would be really cool, and I have I think about doing it all the time, taking some sort of tour, to different places and meet all the Canarians there. Texas obviously is going to be one of them. It's one of those things I think about all the time. Sounds really cool. I think it'd be a huge blessing. Just waiting for that one moment when I wake up and God says, today's the day. Start, get in the car. Let's go. And I'll make sure everybody knows when that happens. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
God
all
bless
right,
you,
man. Thanks so much. Okay.
Take it easy.
You too.
Bye. There you go, folks. Don't we all have something like that, though? I feel like that's just kind of part of being human. I think maybe especially maybe American. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just being a human. There are many spiritual practices that we really want. We want to be good at. We want to learn. We want to hear from God. We want to be good at praying. We want to be all these things. And it's annoying because it takes a bunch of practice, and you start out, you can't stay focused, and you don't know what to say, or you don't know. One of those things is hearing from God, or just detecting God in your life. And it takes a long time. It's really, but it's just a matter of being sensitive, and again, reviewing everything that God's done in the past, seeing if you can find some sort of pattern. That's very helpful. But that learning to be sort of sensitive to God's timing in your life is very difficult, but a very special thing to do, because we can be starting and stopping, this way, that way. I don't know. Is the timing right? I don't know. This way, I want this, but and it just goes back and forth. But of course, if we beseech the Father, lean in and listen best we can, not just listen with our ears, listen with our hearts, listen with our minds, listen with the situations in our life. These situations are always moving, these relationships are moving, things are kind of shifting the tectonic plates, and it can kind of be sitting here being like, okay, it's now, no, not now. No, okay, here we go. Let's go. And sometimes you start and it doesn't work out. Sometimes you start and you stop, and all these sorts of things. But there's sort of a special thing if you can really just calm everything down, learn to recognize these sort of moments in your life when God opens up these doors, and it's not just a random event that we sort of go for or take as maybe a sign or something. But it's a very special thing to try to do, and it takes a very long time, and I certainly am not the best at it. But there are certainly times in life when it just makes sense, it feels right, you get the go ahead from God, and that's when you do it. And you really shouldn't try to do it any other way, because we can't do it on our own. We fail miserably every time we try to figure it out, or make the, not that making plans is bad, but when the time isn't right, it's just not going to work no matter how hard you try. All right, we got one last caller. What are we at? 1:45, hour 4. This is perfect timing. We're going to be able to get out of here right about 2 hours. We got Sir David G in the chat. Gonna bring him up. Here we go. Sir David G, what's on your mind, buddy?
Yo, best buddy. How are you?
Doing good, hanging in there, relishing in the glory of God.
Yeah, it's been a good show so far, man. Lots of varied conversation.
That's right. This is a wild one. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I did want to encourage old John, man. If you've got 25 acres with electrical, you are just leaps and bounds ahead of so many people who want to do that. I mean, just you did the whole solar thing. Getting electrical can be a nightmare.
It's a thing, man. It's a whole thing, man.
So anyway, my chickens, I will recommend fencing around your chickens. I have a small coop that I built, but the latch, I was supposed to fix the latch. I got distracted, and one of the neighbor's dogs, I don't know which one.
Oh yeah.
Got in and got my chickens. All my chickens
Yeah.
are gone. So, it is what it is.
Predators are crafty, man. You can start feeling like everything's fine. You can get a little comfortable, and then these various predators, they're always, it's a war. It's a constant war. It's a generations long war. It's like the war between like weapons makers and armor makers. It's, they're just going generation by generation outsmarting each other. That's what's going on with chicken owners and chicken eaters. And constantly, there's always some little thing. And but sorry to hear about that. That's
okay.
it.
I mean, it was my own fault because I was cleaning out their coop and putting some fresh bedding down for them, and the wood had gotten kind of warped. So I was actually going back to the garage to get my tools to fix it, and then got completely distracted and forgot to go back and do it. And completely my fault. I just need to bite the bullet and finally put up the fence around the property. But I have to do it myself just to save money. So it's going to be quite the task.
It's a thing. It's a nice few afternoons of just repetitive banging the things into the ground or whatever.
Right. That's not what I really wanted to talk about, but it was just interesting that's kind of with the last guy. Was it Old John or Uncle John? Old John.
Old John. Yeah.
Anyway, got me on that, but I did want to bring it back around to the initial conversation about anxiety.
Mhm.
Um,
Full circle, baby. That's what I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about. Bringing
yeah.
it back around.
That's right. So do you have anxiety about AI and where all this is going? The panopticon, the surveillance state they're trying to build.
Mhm.
Is that a
Yeah.
concern for you?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, it's interesting. I mean, yes, on a basic level, for sure. I mean, I do have anxiety about that. Uh, I wouldn't say the anxiety sort of grips me, but I am fully aware and confident that it is going to happen. And it's been a slow process of handing that over to the Lord. It's nothing I can do about it. The anxiety is not helping, especially when you have anxiety about something that is inevitable. Like, it's one thing to be sitting here being like, "Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom later. I don't know when, I don't know where, but it's gonna happen. I just know it's gonna happen." Anxiety about an inevitability is like especially useless. And so I think I'm able to kind of let it go a little bit better. But yeah, certainly it's there.
Yeah. Because I had it too initially, and so this is kind of for you and for anybody else who might have. Like, I know I was actually reading it last night in Matthew, the Beatitudes and whatnot, and Jesus telling people, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has its own worries.
Hmm.
Um, so just a reminder to everybody out there that the current um, infrastructure that they're just kind of shoehorning all of these data centers and the whole telecommunications grid is antiquated,
Yeah,
right? I mean, yeah, they're rolling out fiber and all this and that, but all of the hubs, all the centers that all of those cables terminate into, it's all very old. And I'm talking old from like early 1900s, right? Some
right.
of the major hubs throughout the nation. You have other places, I'm sure, that might get exported to like that are behind us when it comes to telecommunications infrastructure, because they came into it later, so they have more modern buildings, more modern equipment, more modern power delivery, etc. But at least here in the United States, it's old, it's antiquated.
Right.
So what they're trying to accomplish, I I don't, based on what I see physically every single day and the things that I fix, right? Um, I think I'm saying this to help maybe reassure people that I don't think it's going to be what they're claiming it's going to be. I think a lot of it is more just like COVID, right? How many people did you see dead in the street? But they were
Right.
telling you, right? We saw what was playing out on the screen, but the reality of it was much different. And this is much the same from what I see. Now, this is a very small view that I have of it, just because it's, geographically, I'm limited to where I can go and what I can see. But I've been many places across Texas, and it's the same everywhere, everywhere I've been across the state. So hopefully that can, settle some people's anxiety about that and what they're going to achieve with it. Because personally, from what I see, I don't see how they're going to do it without an entire ground up rebuild of the telecommunications infrastructure. I know they say they have satellites and all that, but I would recommend actually going and doing some research on satellites, what they are and how they actually communicate, because how they actually communicate is through ground stations, right? So every satellite has a ground station that it quote unquote communicates with. So all the information moving back and forth is actually happening through the telecommunication system on the ground. It's not happening, right, from satellite. I mean, you might get an image to your satellite dish, right? But even then, who knows? You know, like I said, just go do some research into it. It's pretty fascinating to see, and it kind of lifts the veil, and it's less mysterious, and it's easier to see how yet again they convince us it is one way, but really when you look at it, it's a completely different way. So anyway.
Yeah, well, part of it, and part of what gives me a little bit more understanding and peace is you look at the fact that the most mainstream lie-filled social engineering, just absolute sort of machinations of the father of lies, news outlets are all reporting on it, on a certain version of it, and are basically spreading a certain brand of the fear. I mean, when whatever the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Atlantic are all telling a story of the same AI apocalypse, like, oh, it'll take your jobs, it'll look like this, it'll look like that, this is very scary. There it's a solidified sort of monolithic narrative that they are putting out there, which, from our own experience, when we remember how things have gone in the past, we know that if that's the story they're telling, that's not what is going to happen. It never happens the way that the sort of narrative, monoculture says it's going to happen. In fact, they're just telling you a version of what's going to happen because they want you to react in a manner as if it were true. So that right there is a good thing to remember. Just look at what the mainstream media is telling you to be afraid of with AI, and you can pretty much guarantee it is not going to be that version. It kind of goes back to what I've been kind of saying this year. It's like, look, they're going to ramp up the narrative. They're going to set out these absolutely diabolical worst case scenarios. And so far, none of them have happened in the way that they said they're going to happen. And I think the AI thing is very similar. Now,
exactly.
I can think of other ways in which I will be displeased for AI to turn out. But again, it's not going to be kind of that worst case scenario. And I think, given the timeline we're being given, whatever the worst version of the AI takeover is going to look like, it's not going to be everywhere in 5 to 10 years. Maybe it'll be the cities, Mamdani in New York City. You got a sort of tyrannical government and the consent of the people to do the wildest stuff. Maybe they'll have some pretty bad version of the AI takeover in New York City, but it's not going to be an even, medium sized cities. Des Moines going to be okay for a little while longer. And then smaller cities are going to be even okayer for a little bit while, at least when it comes to like the worst case scenarios. I think we will get examples of the worst case scenario, but it'll be pretty easy to avoid it. And that's what makes me feel a little bit better. I don't think my direct life and lifestyle is going to necessarily be destroyed by AI overnight. And, again, an AI would not be able to podcast as bad as I do. It'll just feel fake. People don't want AI podcasts. So what are you going to do? But I understand.
They don't. And, you also have to think about that. Look at all the investment and where it's going. It's all going into AI. okay, but it's still incumbent upon the telecommunications companies to roll out this increased infrastructure that's required, right? When was the last time you heard about any telecommunications company getting the levels of money that OpenAI and Oracle, or who's Sam Altman's, is it OpenAI? I don't remember. Anyway,
yeah, OpenAI.
but y'all know what I'm talking about. This huge money in AI, but not very much going to the wires, right? The cables that make all of this work cross continent and all of that.
I will say, with the exception of Elon Musk, SpaceX and AI combining, SpaceX more or less was basically a telecommunications company, specifically with the satellites. And, he's talking about making a phone and stuff like that. So, in whatever version it looks like, you're right. There's not a whole lot of system upgrade in what we think of as the essential infrastructure. I think Elon's trying to kind of change what that essential infrastructure kind of is or even means. But your point kind of stands. It's still just one company and they got a lot of other stuff going on.
And they have a long road ahead of them to change, because like I said, you have existing infrastructure that is old and it's all being kind of like, it was never built in a modular fashion. So they're kind of trying to shoehorn everything into the existing infrastructure. I mean, yeah, they're pulling new fiber, but that doesn't mean anything because each one of those fiber cables has to terminate inside of a building that requires power, right? And these pieces of equipment fail regularly. They're constantly replacing all of this stuff, and all of that, each piece of equipment that's fibers terminating into is dependent upon, guess what? Computer chips. And if you follow RAM and just hardware in general, you can see the prices spikes of just general silicon chips and RAM and all of these other things that aren't just required for AI, but also required for not only AI to communicate across the internet, but for all of us to communicate. So it's all a very fragile system is what I'm getting at. And in order for them to achieve the means, right, the end, like it's going to require a lot that the average person isn't really thinking about. So the point of all of this is just to help put people's anxiety about all of this at ease a little bit, because it's way more fragile than they're letting on, Anyway,
yeah, well, that's kind of
I got to run, buddy.
Oh, no worries. Take it easy.
So I'll dip out right now, and I'll let you roll with that.
Sounds good.
Just want to say God bless, and if you do come to Texas, I know Toph is hosting a meetup, so just saying.
Texas meetup, it's coming up.
Let's do it. All right, buddy.
Take
God
it
bless.
easy. Yeah, barring, and this is always the thing. Whoopsies. This is always the thing that is always in the back of my mind. He's totally right on the technical level of which he is speaking. And I think that could give us all a little bit of peace. If we're looking for a sort of a logical source of peace, I think, my addition to his breakdown, in the sense that the worst version of AI takeover, I think could happen possibly in small concentrated areas. That's why they're inventing smart cities. That's why the whole thing. If you're living in New York City, you'll probably have the worst version of it. If you're even a little bit out of New York City, you're probably fine for a while. The other side is obviously barring some sort of surprise technology. And I don't even know exactly what that would be. But one example I think that we've seen in the past that made a certain version of the worst case scenario, get a little too close for comfort was kind of the secrecy and then the overnight revealing of like mRNA technology. Nobody had really ever heard of it. Nobody had really ever talked about it. not even the market itself. Like there was basically no information about it whatsoever to the general public. Nobody had access. Of course, there's a couple of crazy researchers who, had talked about it, but basically in the span of 7 months, an entirely brand new, not just technology, but paradigm of technology came out of nowhere and, allowed for something to happen that we had never seen before. Now, could it have happened without mRNA technology? I don't know. But, just making a loose thing here. Unless there is some sort of secret technology that we are not aware of, or maybe a secret capability of existing technology. We brought up satellites. I brought up, Elon and things like that. To be honest, Sir David G is much more aware of the exact technical specifications that surround us. So I do, we do need to put a certain large amount of trust in what he's saying. However, from a non-professional's point of view, what if the AI takeover didn't require land-based, whatever. But now we're kind of in just like this. See, this is the fiction of the anxiety. See what I'm doing here? I'm creating a possible fiction to support the the anxiety. And isn't that just a beautiful example of what we're so good at? Even when logic dictates that the thing we're afraid of dictates that the worst possible scenario can't even happen, we look to explain even hypothetical or fictional ways in which the worst case scenario could happen. See how that goes? I think that's very interesting. Anyways, yeah, I'm pretty confident that the worst case scenario, at least the ones that they're presenting to us in the mainstream media, it's not going to happen the way that man tells us it's going to happen. I do think it's going to happen the way that the Bible says it's going to happen. Now, of course, the way the Bible describes it is open to interpretation. But maybe that's why God did choose to present the end time scenario in the way that he did in the Bible, in a vision from a man who is living in exile by himself, has a vision given to him by God with dragons and lots of crazy stuff. It may be literal, but we're pretty accepting that there might be some spiritual things being presented in a mysterious spiritual way that might look a little different here on the material realm in its material reflection. So we can, and that's always what's been fun about it. Anyways, everything's going to be fine, folks. Speaking of which, we do have one more caller hanging out here. We'll say hi to this last caller. But let me just check something, because, of course, we all woke up this morning and we're going to war with Iran and everything is going nuts. Here it is. President Trump is weighing an initial limited strike on Iran to force Tehran to meet his demands for a nuclear deal, per the Wall Street Journal. No updates, folks. Things are fine. And the fear, of course, we get into a full-on hot war with Iran, just like that was the fear last time. And I'm not saying anything is by Trump's natural ability, but what we've seen over and over and over and over for now 10 years or more from this guy is things literally never happen the way they tell us it's going to happen. All right, we got one more fella here in a lot of was it all men today? All men. Ladies, you got to call into the show. Got a bunch of dudes calling into Clubhouse. All right. One last dude, a cool dude calling in. We got Sir Darren out of the Hungry Panda. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, Basil.
What's on your mind today, pal?
So I just wanted to let you know that if you get the tomatoes going, or the potatoes,
Uh-huh.
and we've got Sir Dylan who has the beef.
Uh-huh.
If old John just gets the wheat going, then we can start a burger place.
I saw some chat about this in the chat. I think this is that parallel economy, folks, that we're going for.
Yeah, I definitely would get on board with that. I would be producing that for sure.
It might be maybe the best possible way to sort of non-traditionally monetize the podcast is suddenly it's just a podcast in support of a burger place, or the burger place keeps the podcast going, which is kind of a little bit how Nephilim Death Squad does it. I don't know a whole lot about their thing, but I know their studio is in a coffee shop, I think. I don't know what the financial relationship is there, but yeah, I think, the world's going to need burgers. We're always going to need burgers. We need burgers from start to finish, farm to table, done with holy intentions. And I think the Lord has brought the people together, and the mastermind of it all, Sir Darren, here to manage the project.
Yeah, I can at least think up fun names.
Well, that's
for the combo meals.
These days, that's basically all that's needed is fun names. So there's we've got our marketing professional here. Did you want to share any of the fun names?
Oh, I don't have it. I just thought, obviously we've got tons of fun names, and then we have to debate though, do we actually employ a flippy arm or not? That's kind of because it is a get, right? It's like but we're then going against a little bit like, well, we did give it our job. So,
that's the thing, was we wouldn't be able to afford to pay a human to flip these burgers. It's the only way to keep it profitable is to get the robots in there, Sir Darren. We know this better than everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
We will need a producer to supervise the robot arms, of course.
That's true. So there we go. Supervise the robot arm. Supervise the burgers. I think it's a surefire plan. And then, obviously any other... it just kind of pushes all of us producers to go off grid and start being, what do they call that? Farm to table. Anyway,
somebody's got to give y'all a little shove here. Somebody's got to give you a little push off the dock. You got to learn how to swim. Somebody's got to get you off. I'm happy to be that guy.
And then we can obviously, for the sort of normie outsider perspective, they love burgers anyway. So we really kind of get them on board with the whole deal too.
It's a ministry tool.
Yeah, and Sir Ike has the coffee, for the morning rush kind of deal.
You're thinking the way that we all need to be thinking around here. Look, somebody can open a Canary Cry burger joint right now if they wanted to. I would support that. If you want to open a Canary Cry burger joint, I support you. Look, you figure it out. You figure out how exactly you want to benefit the show in that case. But I trust that the Holy Spirit will inspire your value for value. And yeah, that's the kingdom economy, baby.
Yeah. Well, just really quick, I don't want to talk a lot about this, but I don't know if you saw True Streams Media's video about we're being dehumanized by this, where they were talking about the AI.
Is this the most recent one?
Yeah, it was like AI, using AI for like this identification and everything that they're pushing now. and all
I
that.
haven't watched it yet. No, I
So
haven't.
yeah, it was like talking about how, like the DMV is like using AI to try to, identify people. And if the AI at the DMV couldn't identify you, then people were just kind of like standing around like, I don't know what to do.
Huh.
And I thought that was funny because, yeah, I had to go a while back to the airport, and they had that whole thing of like, stand here, get your photo taken and all this. And
Right.
I was like, wow, this is really sad, because it's like, dude can't look at my photo and on my ID and actually identify it. It's like, what? It's like the guy working there doesn't realize, oh, you're going to be replaced soon. That's why
Yeah.
they're doing this. Like, you're
Right.
not going to have a job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true. And it's happening. I don't know, if somebody in other places, not the United States, there's some other airports I've been where they basically have gotten rid of basically everybody. The passport thing is automated. The turnstiles are automated. There's basically just like an old lady wearing a vest to just stand there and like make sure something doesn't catch on fire. Like it's happening, baby.
And
And
that reminded me real fast too of I don't know if anyone really goes to Walmart very often, but if you go to Walmart, you can see that when you walk into a Walmart, they have this, like, well, at least some of them, I don't know if all of them, but they have these TVs up there that immediately as you walk in, there's little boxes will like pop up on your face, and
yeah,
basically the store will be tracking you through the entire store the whole
yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's
And not
just,
even
it's
just for
surreal.
security either. It's not even just for security. They'll say it's for security, but they also will be tracking your purchases, and not even just your purchases. They'll track like what you even looked at in the store. Not just what you buy, but like watch how long you stood there and looked at the popsicles or the ice cream, and then see how long you walked past, your gait slowed down as you walked past the donuts. They'll be like, oh, this guy, we can sell this guy some sweets, and then you get targeted for ads online. It's a beautiful system.
Yeah, but what was funny about, again, like the AI stuff is, I know that they'll probably improve it, but it's also so funny how much of it is becoming worse and worse. Like, it's not even really doing the job that they want it to do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it is kind of like, I guess, either it's just a beta test of something else, or they're trying to improve the technology. But it's very interesting how much, like, again, this AI bubble that they were just bringing up, of they're pushing for something that seems like it's like, again, they either are making it purposely not good enough so that they can then put in something even worse that we wouldn't accept now, perhaps.
Right. Yeah.
Is what it sort of seems, because even the Discord thing, I've been following the Discord deal, and that just seems like everybody just says, oh, I'm not using Discord then, or
Right.
or I'm not doing the actual ID stuff. And it's like, it's interesting to me why they would try to implement something that's so just awful, and yet just not care. That, I don't know, I'm having a
Yeah.
hard time even
No,
working it out in my head.
it definitely feels like there's some sort of deception going on here. And that's easy to say, of course, but you're right. A lot of the logic is not quite making sense. There's something else going on. And when it comes, again, the AI bubble and all this kind of stuff, the commercially available AIs are getting worse and worse and worse, and less useful. However, all this billions and billions and billions of dollars that the AI companies are trading back and forth, the Mag 7, the stock market is basically entirely constituted by investment in AI. The focus that we've seen sort of quietly for all this funding has been on the AI infrastructure, the data centers, things like this. I think Fox just came out with a report that they found 3,000 of these data centers across the US right now. And a lot of these data centers are going up secretly. There's some that, a small town will band together and make sure the data center doesn't go up. But they're basically secretly putting up these data centers out in the middle of nowhere, like 1,000 miles away from any human contact, just to kind of build it out of the way so nobody really notices. It's that kind of infrastructure hardware that's the really concerning part. Because yeah, you're right, the AI as it stands now, and there, is, I don't know, not to get into the weeds on the I don't know, the technology part of it, but you read the real sort of analysis of what's happening in that market, is that they used to tell us that to make the AI better, if you want it to be better at answering your questions, if you want it to be better at logic, to a regular consumer like us, if we want our ChatGPT to be better, what they need is more data centers, more data centers. We need the hardware. The hardware will make it better. And what we're seeing is there's more hardware that has ever existed, and the LLMs are getting worse and worse. So it's obvious now that we were lied to, that funding and building more data centers would make the LLMs better. But then why are they doing so much hardware? There's something going on in the background that we're not being told.
So the other thing that I was thinking, and just as a side to this too, you should look into data centers that are put in the ocean now.
Yeah.
Like server farm, like that's really interesting, because they basically, the infrastructure for like those server farms comes from like oil rigs. So they'll put out all the infrastructure as an oil rig, but then they can sort of piggyback off that oil rig and just put like a server farm down the ocean. And it's like really much more efficient for a lot of what they need. But also the thing that I feel like where AI is actually doing really well, and it's kind of like Trump maybe alluded to this too, was I think it's for the military. I think that we are getting like the little tiny play toys of AI to just kind of play with and like mess around with. But where it's actually working incredibly well is in the military. And they are basically like, no, we are not giving this to the public. Because if I was noticing that, what's his name? I forget his name, but he was on the Sean Ryan show, and he's that guy who invented like that VR headset for the military. And he was talking, they built like this drone, and it runs on AI, but it basically piggybacks off an actual fighter jet with a real pilot. And so it's called quarterbacking. And so it flies with the pilot, and it's a drone. Well, they don't seem to have any issues with those things and say, oh, they're just falling out of the sky. Oh, they're terrible. Oh, we can't even get our AI to work at all. They seem to be like head over heels with that AI technology.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, again, it's kind of the misdirection of like, ooh, we need our AI to be better at logic. No, you don't. Not the military. They don't need it to be better at logic. They just need it to be able to perform inhuman acts of violence. That's all they really need. They don't need their military AI to be able to correctly draw a strawberry or to add numbers together. The military drones or the robotic soldiers, they're not going to be asked to make a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. That has nothing to do with it. They are fully working on an entirely different set of needs over there. And one thing we can guarantee is the needs, if the needs of any AI are going to be met, it's the needs of the military AI for sure.
Yeah. So anyway,
it'll be
Baz's
fine.
Burgers and AI.
That's why we're just going to make the burgers. Everything's going to be fine. Nobody panic. It's all going to be fine, Sir Darren. I think that's, of course, the message that we're all going to be taking away from this.
Wait, hey, the troops love burgers, I'm sure, right?
Somebody's got to eat the burgers, okay? We need humans. We need humans because somebody's got to eat the burgers.
And then, they already are into burgers because vaccinations.
Yeah, exactly. They can bribe everybody to get their super soldier serum by giving them free burgers. Sir Darren, out of the Hungry Panda, thanks for calling in, buddy. Always great
You're
talking
welcome.
to you.
Bye-bye.
God bless. There you go, folks. I don't know if there's anything else left to be said. That's it. We covered it all. What a wide, I think I said this last episode. We had quite the variety of conversations. And you know what? We did it again. Good job, everybody. Good job. Now, here's the thing. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. We're going to be back on Monday for some Canary Cry news talk. And of course, remember, we are value for value, which means we can only survive with the participation of our producers. Who is that? It's you. Time, talent, treasure. You know the drill. May the Lord inspire whoever is meant to be inspired to keep this show and the other shows going. Let's get a little bit of feeding the ducks in here. There we go. That feels good. Shout out to the Canary Cry text message alert system. Oops, I'm logged out. I don't think we got too many texts today. I suppose I can check, see if this works. Can I? Big shout out to Rod too. Thanks, Rod, for calling in, hanging out with us. All of our callers, wonderful ladies. You got to call in sometime. Okay, we need to balance it out a little bit. Or whatever. Just reviewing. No, looks like okay. Looks like we did it. We did it. We did the show. Good job, everybody. There will be no Canary Cry Clubhouse next week. Apologies. I will be traveling on the Thursday. That is the 26th. It says right here in my calendar, no events. There will be no Canary Cry Clubhouse next week. However, I don't know. You guys do it. You guys do it. You guys put on the show. All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry Clubhouse. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cave.